Hey guys, how's it going? Today we're going to go over top 5 bounty hunters who defeated Chewie. Now, no argument here, Chewie is definitely one of the greatest warriors that served the Rebel Alliance. And on his home world of Kashyyyk, he was well regarded for his honor, having defeated countless Wookiee rivals who tried to challenge him in combat due to ancestral grudges. Even when his opponents unsheathed their claws, which was forbidden in Wookiee society, Chewie would find a way to win, like the time that he dragged the albino Wookiee Kashyyyk into the deepest parts of the jungle and left him to the evil creatures that lived around the giant tree's roots. But even though Chewie was one of the mightiest warriors to serve in the war, he seemed to have a problem with bounty hunters. Whenever he would take on those bottom feeders, which was pretty often, I should say, and mainly because someone was always offering a bounty for Han Solo's head, Chewie would often wind up the loser. Today, I thought we'd look at 5 bounty hunters who defeated Chewbacca, so here we go. Number 5, the Trandoshan. Trandoshan bounty hunters and slavers are a constant threat to Wookiees. Whether they're exploring the galaxy or on their homeworld of Kashyyyk, Wookiees must remain vigilant at all times, in case a reptilian Trandoshan might try to snatch them away. Chewie was no different. He had been fighting against Trandoshans since he was a cub. At one time, when he was no more than a kid, a group of Trandoshan slavers snuck onto the planet and captured as many Wookiees as they could find. At the time, Chewie was on a date with a woman that he loved, and someone that he thought he might marry. When Chewie realized that his home was under attack, he ran to face the Trandoshans, but their blaster fire was too great. He decided that he couldn't take them on face to face, so he grabbed a vine and leapt away from the battle, hoping to circle back and pick the traitors off one by one. When Chewie returned, he tore the Trandoshans' limbs from their bodies and threw his enemies into the same jungle abyss that he had lured Kashyyyk into. Later in his life, Chewie actually ends up captured by a group of Trandoshan slavers. The captain of the reptilian crew used an old rivaling family of Chewbacca's to lure him into a compromising position. This Trandoshan didn't actually take Chewie on head-to-head, instead using tranquilizing darts to subdue him. Still, I wanted to include this particular Trandoshan bounty hunter and slaver on this list because he ended up imprisoning Chewbacca for a short period of time, which is an impressive feat considering how many Trandoshans Chewie had killed by this point in his life. But there is another reason that I included him. Because Chewie absolutely wrecked the Trandoshan captain when he got revenge, the Wookiee smuggler ripped every single limb from his body, and it took years for them to grow back. By the time C-3PO met the old slaver, his limbs were barely the size of a toddler's. Number 4. Black Krrsantan is perhaps the most feared Wookiee in the galaxy. Exiled from the planet of Kashyyyk for horrifying crimes, the black-haired Wookiee had roamed the galaxy as a gun for hire for years. His list of clientele was a who's who of dictators and crime lords. At one time, he was hired by Jabba the Hutt when that Outer Rim kingpin was looking for a mysterious person in the deserts of Tatooine. Someone had interfered with Jabba's extortion attempts recently. When a group of the Hutt's thugs went to Uncle Owen's house in order to extract their seasonal protection money, someone not only turned his thugs away, but beat them unconscious. That person turned out to be Obi-Wan Kenobi during his time in hiding on Tatooine. Of course, Jabba didn't realize it was Obi-Wan, the famous general of the Clone Wars, but he didn't care. He just knew that someone was questioning his power. When he sent Black Krrsantan to confront the Jedi, the Wookiee warrior nearly killed both Kenobi and Uncle Owen. Krrsantan was so powerful that he forced Obi-Wan to do something he swore he'd never do again: ignite his lightsaber in combat. When Black Krrsantan took on Chewie in a later conflict on the planet of Vrogas Vas, the Black Wookiee was equally as impressive. Even though Chewie had been weakened by a toxic injection, it's doubtful whether Chewie could have ever beaten Krrsantan, even if he had full health. Krrsantan was just too full of dirty tricks and tactics, and he would never accept defeat. At one point, after Chewie had received his antidote, it seemed like the tide of the fight would turn towards Chewbacca's favor, but Black Krrsantan slipped on a pair of brass knuckles and with a wild windmill punch knocked the rebel Wookiee out cold. Number 3. Dengar. While searching for Luke Skywalker on the surface of Nar Shaddaa, the smuggler's moon, Chewbacca ran into the deadliest bounty hunter in the entire galaxy, at least one of, Dengar, a Corellian bike racer who had received life-saving surgery and a handful of cyborg components that increased his strength. Dengar was known for his fierce rivalry with Boba Fett, to which later, of course, they became friends. And in order to have a rivalry with that Mandalorian bounty hunter, you need to be pretty badass and dangerous yourself. So in Nar Shaddaa, Chewie and C-3PO climbed to the roof of a skyscraper. The city looked dazzling from that height, almost as if the streets weren't filled with some of the sickest people in the galaxy. While Chewie looked at the horizon and tried to guess which building silhouettes was the arena of Grakkus the Hutt, where Luke was being held at the time, Dengar managed to sneak up on them. In the ensuing fight, Dengar incapacitated both 3PO and Chewie with an electric bolt. Later on, as Chewie recovered, the rebel smuggler and the Corellian cyborg managed to go blow for blow with powerful shots. But in the end, Dengar withdrew his plasma knife, a mini blade as hot hot as a forge and cut into the Wookiee. As Chewie laid on the ground and his death seemed to be imminent, a red blaster shot caught Dengar's armor. It was Han Solo. If it wasn't for the sudden arrival of his partner, Chewie would have certainly met his end on that roof on Nar Shaddaa. Number 2, 000. 000 is a psychotic personality matrix fitted into a not-so-scary looking protocol droid. Most known for his love of murdering organics, 000 became a bounty hunter and all-around criminal when he joined Dr. Aphra on her various adventures across the galaxy, both when she served Darth Vader and in the time after. At one point, 000 was actually with Dr. Aphra when she ran into Han Solo and Chewbacca. This was on the planet of Vrogas Vas, the same one that hosted Chewie and Black Krrsantan's famous showdown. Dr. Aphra had managed to get her hands on Luke Skywalker, and she was bringing him in. When Chewie intervened, he struggled to contain his rage. With a growl, he lunged at 000 and tore an arm right out of his metallic body. Like any protocol droid would do, 000 tried to politely protest, but then Chewie took his severed limb and smacked it across 000's face. After a few shots, the droid could suffer no more, and he pushed out a small, slender needle from his hands. Too distracted by the joy of smashing a droid's head in with its own arm, Chewie didn't notice when 000 injected him with 500 milligrams of Mandalorian xenotox. Chewbacca immediately collapses, and 000 couldn't be happier. He couldn't wait to cut the Wookiee open and see what his blood was like, but by that point Luke Skywalker had come to, and he used his blue lightsaber to cut through the droid's remaining arm. Again, this was another situation that might have been the death of Chewie if it wasn't for Luke. Or at least someone's intervention. And lastly, number 1 on this list, Boba Fett. While hunting for Han Solo's carbon-frozen body, Boba Fett and Leia Organa's small rebel task force found themselves awkwardly waiting in the same room. They were observing a secret syndicate auction organized by Kira and the Crimson Dawn. The Dawn had managed to steal Solo's body from Fett, sometime after the Mandalorian had retrieved it from Cloud City. While he would have loved to shoot Kira with a few bolts to her head and simply load Solo's carbonite cell into the back of Slave One, Fett realized that it wasn't the wisest course of action, especially since the entire Crimson Dawn organization, as well as the Grand Hutt Council and several other syndicates, were all attending the auction in the Great Hall beneath him. But as Fett watched the auction, he was visibly annoyed that he had to do so along with Lando, Chewie, and Leia. The two sides bickered in the small space until emotions boiled too high. Chewie struck at Boba Fett, grabbing him by the throat, and Boba would have reached for his carbine rifle if this were any other place. But since he didn't want to alert the auction guests below, Fett relied on his skills in hand-to-hand combat to defeat the Wookiee. Fett rolled to the ground, dragged Chewie with him, or at least tried to, but Chewie's just too powerful and actually powerbombed him into the marble below. Realizing that the Wookiee is too strong, Fett did the quietest but most devastating thing he could do. He ignited his flamethrower and cast the flammable liquid at Chewie, igniting him on fire. Chewie only survived thanks to the quick thinking of Lando Calrissian, the Cloud City bureaucrat who Chewie actually still hated. Lando quickly disrobed his cloak and threw it over Chewie to snuff out the flames. Well guys, I hope you enjoyed this top 5 list of bounty hunters who kind of defeat Chewie. You know, it's sad to say because I love Chewie, but you can't beat everyone, you know. Personally, I hope we see Black Krrsantan in live action. I think he's such a badass character, and as for everyone else on this list, but him especially, I really want to see a dark version of Chewie as I see him. Leave a like on this video if you enjoyed it. I will see you all in the next video. Until then, remember, the Force will be with you always.